Yeah, morning everybody. Welcome to Talking Niagara. Hey Dave, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, so it's going to be a stinking hot day today, apparently.
Next few days, we've got this
Yeah,
heat dome coming. Heat dome coming. Well, already has arrived. I found yesterday. I think the temperatures in Thunder Bay were like 39 degrees or something like that. 39
mm,
for Thunder Bay is
yeah. Well,
like
it's only
39
30
below
plus.
zero is more more like it.
More like it for Thunder Bay. Well, actually, that said, the weather information that's coming through about Niagara region said 30 to 37 degrees Celsius being the high, but with the humidex feeling like 45.
Oh, good.
You know,
That's so
so
good.
it's sweltering type weather. So stay in when you can, but if you have to go outside, um, basically take care of yourself. Look out for heat exhaustion and the signs which might include headaches, nausea, dizziness, thirst, dark urine, intense fatigue. All right. So stop what you're doing. Drink water is what they're advising.
Yeah, there was a 7 day alert, and like you said, Thunder Bay had temperatures of 39 degrees. That was a day or two ago, but nevertheless, this massive heat dome come out of the states. It I guess it got bored of cooking to death the people in the Midwest, the U.S., and came up here.
Well,
I don't know.
this is the sort of export we don't need, Dave.
No, I need. We can
Yeah.
tariff that. We can tariff that.
Yeah, I think we should tariff it.
Yeah,
Every they pay 10 cents a 10 cents a degree over 30
yeah, yeah. But
per degree hour.
yeah, we could give that one back to. We can give that one back. We don't even need to do trade in that massive heat.
Yeah.
They may complain about the cold that comes from us though, so we got to be a little bit careful there.
Mm. Well, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. The damn weather. Anybody would think it was controllable or something. Trouble is, as soon as we get to control it, we then muck up the earth, don't we?
We definitely do. So, well, that's going to be the challenge going forward. Too bad. Ordinary, everyday scientists did not control the news about climate change. We had too many celebrities hooked on, too many politicians, and all of that. When the scientists were merrily going along their way, predicting climate increases because the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, the whole thing was hijacked by
Well,
like Al Gore and all other people, which extremely exaggerated the situation and put a lot of cynicism towards it. But the very
yeah,
fact of the matter is, if you talk to an everyday scientist, like I got a friend who is a scientist, he's a he's a PhD uh, engineering guy, but he lived many seasons down in the Antarctic and in Greenland and studied and helped facilitate climatologists. And it's very clear to them that CO2 is that thing. Other greenhouse gases too, but
yeah.
particularly CO2 is that
Well,
thing that makes the difference in our particular age.
yeah.
We have about almost twice as much CO2 in the atmosphere now as we did on the cusp of the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution.
Well, one of the things I notice is that, for example, yesterday was the 41st anniversary of Live Aid, which took place in London, Wembley, London, and Philadelphia. Well, of course, I was in London, of course, at that time, and it wasn't particularly what you would call a hot year. It was a time you'd be pleasant going outside. It was 20, 25 degrees. right? Maybe 28 in the high heat. Not the kind of temperature we're getting now, getting up to 40 degrees.
Yep.
Right. Now, okay, so I'm only going from recollection, not going from facts. So you can dispute the facts all you want, and my recollection may be wrong. Right.
Well, yeah. Well, what was your point though?
No, the point being is it feels hotter now. We go out any time in the summer and it's hotter. It feels hot.
Yeah.
Just even walking down, 20 yards to go and get get in your car and drive off somewhere. It feels hotter.
Well, we are also, of course, the arguments are all out there. We have been warming up since the last ice age, fairly with a few blips along the way, the European mini ice age, etc. We've been warming up since that last ice age, and that trend will continue. But that trend happens over thousands of years, and so, but what has happened now, in particular, from 17, they marked the time from 1750 on, when the Industrial Revolution really got a good head start. But the Industrial Revolution technically begins in 1715 with Newcomen's engine there, pump, but steam engine. But anyway, all that aside, from about 1750 on now, we have twice as much CO2 in the atmosphere as we did before, thereabouts. And the climate has been rising, and we're putting all other factors together, all other variables. The one variable that sticks out over and over again is greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
So that, of course, it's not always linear. It'll go it'll go up, and it'll go back down a little bit. Then it'll go way up, and then down, and back and forth, and up and down. A lot of it has to do with how well the Earth can radiate heat out off of its own surface, et cetera, on and on. But these things happen over years. So what's happening right now? Can we lay it at the feet of climate change? Maybe. That's all I can say.
I'm not so sure you can.
Weather is so variable,
I'm not so sure you can. Basically, it's just a hot week. And what you need to do is prioritize keeping yourself cool. Obviously, you've got to go out from time to time. Everybody has, but do it in short stints. And take water with you if you need to.
The best idea is to stay out of the sun. If you're stuck outside, or you don't have air conditioning or something like that, get fans moving. Move air around you. Talking to somebody who's worked in steel mills and other places, when it's 100 degrees outside and you're inside at a steel mill, so you're looking at temperatures around 130 maybe.
I was thinking that, yeah.
Huge fans and push as much air as you can. Believe me, even if the air that's passing by you is warm, get as much air passing through you and around you as possible.
Yeah, it's better to have that air moving, even if that air is 130 degrees, than to be stagnant air in the heat.
Anything that moves air across you, because what's going to do is evaporate your sweat. Now, look here. Also,
I just glanced out the window and there's air moving. There's wind out there, so that's not a bad thing.
That'd be good. But the thing too here is heat exhaustion. You're going to be overwhelmed by heat exhaustion. So this sometimes can come on you very quick. You can feel uncomfortable about the heat and then maintain and keep working, and then suddenly you'll find yourself very weak. Or look out for that person who has stopped sweating and is babbling on. Doesn't make sense. If you look at a person and it's very hot out and you don't see any sign of sweat on them, or they're not sweating anymore and they're babbling away, get them into a cool place as possible. Get some cool water into them. They are beginning the signs of heat stroke. And I've seen this myself. It is actually true. We had on jobs, I've had that same warning from safety people, and found my workmates went through that in some extremely hot environments, and I've known guys that
Right.
actually could not return to work
Yeah.
after
Oh,
they
yeah.
were exposed.
Well,
One
Mike's
guy,
right.
one guy I
Don't work
know,
in
he
this heat. Yeah. Don't work
yeah.
in this heat, but if you must, if you have to, then take precautions.
Yeah, those are the signs I'm telling you. So if you do see somebody and they're not making sense when they're talking, get them into a cool place and get some water into them.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Okay. So moving on, Carney talks about Canada's energy sovereignty. And this is a kind of odd one because he's talking about exporting oil and importing EVs at the same time. And part of this is in response to the fact that the biggest consumer of Canadian oil, America, has become increasingly hostile and erratic, according to the CBC, and an economic quandary that could only be managed by seeking out new customers. So basically, Carney has posted a 17-minute video on YouTube explaining how we could optimize oil production. And then he was on stage with Daniel Smith as she produced a much anticipated proposal to build a new pipeline to the West Coast.
Yes. Well, we've seen uh, energy sovereignty. So we sell 3.9 million gallons per day to the United States, but the United States has made it very clear in
Barrels,
this particular
barrels, not gallons.
barrels of crude to the United States. Um, so it's very, very clear by how the United States is treating us in a particularly trade and whatever, that they have tried the hard. They're going to work on the hardball effect. They're doing the bully thing. You do this or else. So if they have a chance of using Venezuela oil instead of Canadian oil, they will, just to put pressure on us. Not because it may facilitate them any easier or better or cheaper or whatever. They might do it just to put the heat on us.
Yeah.
I think the guy in the White House right now, it will be removed very shortly, and when it comes time to the midterms, if he doesn't fix the election like he's trying to do right now, he may find himself more of a lame duck than he is now. But in the meantime, we got to make it through to that point. And
I don't think Trump will be removed. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I have to disagree with you on that one. There are constitutional ways that a president can be removed, but I don't think that will happen to this particular one. But
I think it's pretty clear that I think it's pretty clear that Amendment 25 would kick in.
No, the midterms will come. I think will change a lot in the US. I don't know. I think the war with Iran has changed many things because for Americans, Epstein is no longer center stage.
Well, I would think here that if he's not removed, he will be his power will be extremely diminished if the midterms go well. If he doesn't have it, if he can't fix them, they'll go against him, and he will not be able to be the bully boy that he has been. Remember, even though the Senate has more Republicans in it than and the Congress has more Republicans in it, both houses have made it very clear that they want Kuzma to be renegotiated.
Yeah.
It is very important. And we see what's happening to Adam Schiff right now from California. He is asking Canada to drop the ban on California wines because the ban has now made it very, very difficult for California wines. It's taken a while. We fought back. We put the elbows up. We fought back. And now we having individual senators and congressmen asking us to drop the ban we have on on their booths because it's hurting their constituencies. But what else do we have to fight back with? We don't have much to fight back with. If we can stop the booze from coming over the border and stop going there and visiting the U.S. or going there.
But remember, Tennessee has already, Tennessee senators have already made the same, appeal a year ago.
They didn't make an appeal. They just, I don't think they asked us to open it up, did they?
They did.
They just tried. They tried to get.
No, they've asked. They just don't have the same volume as the, they did ask about a year ago. I mean, maybe not quite a year ago, but.
Well, there you have it. But the thing, I think the most important thing here is we are now sitting in a situation where those politicians who are on our side are asking us to drop our weapon. Do not use that weapon. Do not use the elbows up with our part anyway, our oil or not our oil, but our produce or our wine or our, each different state is asking us, but what are we going to do? We don't have anything else to fight back with.
Yeah.
We don't have much to fight back with. I mean, we are with China. China's the only other country that's fought back, and the United States hates that. They say that, hey, like what are you fighting back? What's the matter with you? How come you're fighting back? You're the only ones that have approached this negatively. Well, what do you expect? I mean, just because the Europeans laid down and called you daddy, we're not going to do that. We got a little bit of dignity up here. Europeans can lick your boots, but we're not.
Well, I don't know. The Europeans have licked their boots. They just have a different approach.
What do you mean? Calling them daddy? You don't call that boot licking? Did you see what they did at NATO? They were all over them like white on rice. Oh, yeah. God, they're disgusting.
All right. Okay, so basically in this 30-minute video that he laid out 3 pillars of global energy crisis as he sees it, for the affordability of energy, mainly the price of gasoline, which has shot up in recent months, and secondly is energy supply being threatened by global factors like the Straits of Hormuz, and thirdly is climate change, which is manifesting itself in increasing wildfires and extreme weather. Now, that's one thing that we haven't had here in Canada this year, or at least not reported.
Yeah, this fire's going on.
Yeah, not widely reported.
Out west right now.
Yeah.
BC's getting hit again. Yeah, already. Yeah,
BC gets hit every year, but we've had a lot more rain this summer than in the last year, for example.
I don't think that's gonna. It depends on what's gonna come next. I don't know how many fires are going on in Ontario now. Probably a small ones here and there, but basically we just get this big heat dome coming. So I expect that. You get a heat dome. What do you get with heat domes? You get lightning. What do you get with lightning? You get forest fires.
Yeah. Okay. So he's been talking on this. He's got this 30-minute video about global energy crisis, and factors like the Straits of Hormuz, and saying that when we control our own energy, we control our own future. Yes, but again, then we need to be able to be in a position where we can sell our oil and gas, both to the East Coast and the West Coast, through the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah.
And we need to refine it ourselves.
Did you see the proposed pipeline, the new one, that doesn't go through the United States? So we have a pipeline existing now that then goes through the United States and into Sarnia.
Yeah.
Of course, now that has become vulnerable because not only just Michigan and wherever the pipeline goes through wants a piece of the pie. We may not get that oil through because we have to go through the United States, which didn't seem to be a big deal back in the day. But now we're going to have to go over top of Great Lakes. And there is a proposed pipeline to do that. I think pretty much what they're just going to do is add on to what is there, and then loop over top of the Great Lakes, and then bring it down to Sarnia where it's mostly refined.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have it pumped right out to the west, to the east coast, but Quebec won't let the pipelines go through there for environmental reasons, so we got to respect that. But we do have oil on the east coast too.
I don't know whether I respect that idea from Quebec, because I don't know what they mean by environmental reasons, because pipelines have proven the most safe way to move oil in history.
Yeah, and look what happened when the oil was moved by train car. Look what happened to Lake Megantic, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly. We got to get it out to the east coast, and Carney's got to do a deal with Quebec.
the irony here is the oil that blew up in Lake Megantic came from either North or South Dakota. I think it was South Dakota, but it was one of the Dakotas, so it wasn't even Canadian oil. So that's the back and forth that's been happening all along.
Yeah.
But the energy sovereignty is a big thing. We do not want to have to rely on one customer, and I think that's a very good thing. Of course, as much oil as the United States wants, we're going to sell it to them. But if they start cutting into our oil, the amount of oil we send them, we have now pretty much limited ourselves to one major customer for our oil, and that hasn't helped us, has it? And if we're taking oil that comes from South Dakota and putting it on train cars and sending it east to the refineries east, when we had all kinds of it of our own that we could have put out there if we had the facilities to do it. You see what I mean? So it's bizarre that so this interdependency and and it's not like the treaties and the trade treaties and the economic arrangements between one country and the other. We find that it's very clear dealing with the United States is not, you're not dealing with the United States. When you write a treaty with the United States, you're writing a treaty with that particular administration. And when that administration changes, you're going to have to come up with another treaty, because they don't honor the treaty of the previous administration unless it suits them. You see the JCPOA, that one with Iran, Obama took 2 years to get it to get going, and it was functioning well, and it needed a tweak here and there, and Trump just dumps it just like that, and wastes millions and millions of dollars that it took to make the treaty. And Iran says, we just made a treaty with the United States, but as soon as they change administration, we don't have a treaty anymore. So what's the point of negotiating with them?
Yeah, well, actually, Mike makes a very important point here. Sovereignty means setting your own prices. So does Canada have the right to set its own oil prices? No.
Not for oil. Natural gas, yeah, but not for oil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a worldwide system. We are lucky here that we have a lot of oil available, but the fact of the matter, we have a lot of oil, excess amount of oil. We sell our oil. That doesn't make any difference with the price of oil and gas, which is infuriating.
Yeah.
The only thing it can save us, like when the oil embargo happened in the 70s from OPEC, we still had oil and gas here because we produced it, right?
Didn't stop it going up in price, though.
What?
Didn't stop it going up in price, did it?
No, but we had it, and you find in the United States they couldn't fill their tanks for weeks at a time sometimes because it was just not available. The United States is not in that situation now because it fracks oil. It has it's the 10th largest producer right now. We're the 4th largest producer.
Yeah,
they have enough for their own needs plus. And so they're no longer worried about that part of it.
Yeah.
But when they were, we paid more, but we had it. At least we had it, And that's the situation we have today. It is not the worldwide system. Obviously, the Arabs set the prices. when there is a
not
hiccup
entirely
in
true.
that gas area. Right now, no, they're not setting the oil. It's the world is setting the oil. Like the only thing the Arabs can do and
The
what they've
financial
done,
markets that set the price.
it has nothing. It hasn't much to do with the Arabs. The only way that the Arabs can do, and you're talking about not Arabs specifically, but the Gulf nations, including Iran, who produce a lot of oil. The only thing you can do here for them to reduce prices is to increase production. If they increase production, oil prices go down. And we found different presidents at different times have asked the Arab countries or the oil producing countries to up production so that the oil prices go down.
Yeah.
They're not the ones that set it though, and that's set by just by the market. And the only influence they can have on it is to increase production.
And let's be honest. Back in the 70s, of course, the OPEC countries did did manage the price of oil, but not today.
They didn't manage the price of oil. They by saying that we're going to put the price down. What they did was decrease the amount of oil they created and didn't sell it to certain countries. Once they stopped selling it to certain countries, that was an embargo on them. And that was the thing. They cut off supply, put the prices up. So they controlled it that way. But when regular market forces are going, they go by supply and demand, just like everything else. More supply costs less. That's why you will find the oil producing nations, OPEC, decide whether or not to increase production or reduce productions to make sure the price doesn't get too low. The United States and Canada does not want the OPEC nations to produce a lot of oil because it will reduce the price and our oil will not be financially viable. And the fracking oil in the United States won't be. You have to get at least about $68 per barrel for our oil and the fracking oil in the United States to be commercially viable. That's another thing that they can do to hurt our economy if they wished, would be increase the amount of oil on the market, and that would crush their competitors who have to spend a lot more money to retrieve oil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Any more thoughts on the oil crisis?
Well, the oil sovereignty was the subject here. And I think we kind of walked all around it there, but it really shows you just by the nature of our conversation that oil sovereignty, energy sovereignty, they call it, is extremely important. And all of this, I will remind everybody, it does include uranium, which we have vast amounts of. So that's very good for us. So, so we have the energy we need. But to be able to transition away from oil at this particular time is going to be very difficult because of the ample supply of oil.
Even with the use of electric vehicles, you're not going to, the oil and that still needs to be used because, in fact, you need to burn something or you need to produce power in order those electric vehicles operate. So even that electric vehicle deal, that electric vehicle deal was a kind of one time only. I'm sure they are looking at opening up the Pacific and the European markets with oil.
Yeah. So
at some point,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, there's a local author who spent most of his last 40 years as a reporter, which he's documenting his life through the chronicles of his new book. And he said, "Did I really do that?" Well, yeah. And what's his name? Cal Miller?
Cal Miller. He's supposed to be a local journalist, but I gotta admit that I I didn't recognize the name at all.
Well, he lives in Fort Erie, but that doesn't. He's not saying that he's been a local journalist for 40 years, but he does hail from this area.
Yeah, I don't even know why they did an article on him, except that he comes from in and around here, and I think he started out in a radio station in Hamilton in 1960. I'm trying to dig up the article. I read it a few days ago, but
Yeah,
yeah,
he
so
was in
it might be an
Hamilton.
interesting book. It's pretty much a plug for his book, and I think probably his buddies who are also journalists at Niagara Falls Review figured, okay, we'll help him. We're looking for a story, so we'll help him plug his book.
Yeah,
It may be an interesting read, but
yeah, he was at Hamilton CKOC radio.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find that bloody thing.
Right, in the 1960s, before he moved into newsrooms of publications like the Peterborough Examiner, Chatham News, Windsor Star, Toronto Telegram, Toronto Sun, and Toronto Star.
Toronto Telegram. That's the paper we used to get before it folded. And I remember in the 60s, my dad, it was either the Star or the Telegram. Those were the two competing papers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the Telegram.
It's weird, actually, in a way, the collapse. So you described that as collapsing in the 60s or 70s. We had a newspaper collapse in the 60s and 70s, actually, in Britain as well.
Yeah, one of the things I was most disappointed with when I went to Britain for the first time in December of 1973 was I thought they had good news journalism, and I looked at the newspapers, and they were all scandal sheets already at that time.
If you go and pick up the Mirror or the Sun, I can't help you. What you needed to do was go and get the Times or the Telegraph.
Well, I saw the Times there too, and they were very thin, and there was like all these newspapers out there, and they all had big pictures on them and stuff. So I didn't know exactly which one. I knew about the Times. But the Times was even disappointed at me at the time. It was just a thin piece of paper, like it was small compared to our papers in Canada at the time.
The weekday Times used to always be much smaller than the weekend ones.
Well, where I come from a time in the 70s, our newspapers were this thick every day.
Yeah.
And the weekend ones were super thick. So
we never had them. They were always, the Times basically. You'd get a I think it's 32 pages on the Times, full non-tabloid newspaper, but it's not thick. At the weekend you might get double that.
Yeah, so this reporter basically, Cal Miller, he's just writing, I think his wife, I think, was the one that collected most of the newspaper clippings because he can't even remember some of the stuff that he reported until he reads it. So luckily for him, his wife or loved one somewhere along the line collected some of the stories, and he talks about stories like the 87 Edmonton tornado, the DuPont Plaza Hotel in Puerto Rico, bus crash in Windsor. So basically, if you want to follow the life of a journalist throughout that time, and not a major journalist, this guy's not a major journalist. I mean, he's covering Windsor and he's covering Edmonton and things of that kind, a hotel fire or something like that. He's your everyday journalist. Like he did work for the Telegram, but he's working for smaller papers like Windsor and Peterborough and places like that. So it could be an interesting read.
Covering a hotel fire in Puerto Rico is still quite a massive thing to do, actually.
I don't think it's massive. I think it's pretty typical for a journalist to do that. But I mean, he happened to be there at a situation was like a terrible event. His impressions of that as a human being and his professional how he deals professionally with his emotions at the same time might be in there. But anyhow, it's pretty much the Niagara Falls Review, for some reason, gave this guy a free book review.
Yeah. Well, it's fine. If people want to buy it, go buy it. You know, I like to see what people. Do like to see what local people have been up to, so to speak. You know, he retired. He retired in Fort Erie. I believe he came from this area as well originally.
I'm not so sure. It doesn't really say that. Only that he lives here
doesn't.
now.
It doesn't.
No.
Yeah, it does not. That's for sure.
So he's probably got friends, the journalists. You know, he probably knows the journalists, and the journalists know him, and so they gave him a bit of a free book review on a slow news day. Saying that might be a very interesting read. You are not doing anything. You're frozen up. Hey, everyone out there, can you hear me and not Peter, etc.? Hello. Okay, I'm going to have to. Hello, everyone.
There we go. There we go. Sorry about that. My machine just crashed. Basically, just died, and left everybody. It just left everything dead, and so the stream is still live, and don't know what happened, but we will see. Okay, so where were we? Dave?
I don't know. Where were we?
Where were we? Okay, So I think we were just about to get into.
We were talking. We had just finished talking about the journalist, so
Yeah.
it's time for the new story.
Yeah, so we're just about to get into the first phase of occupancy is occupancy approval for Evertrust has been reached.
I looked at that and I thinking, who in the right mind is going to go in that building? Right?
Yeah.
It had two collapses. The Evertrust building had two collapses, and they figured they got to the bottom of it, and it was an engineering problem. They charged two engineers. The second one by the Tyler Jones or something like that. I got to get the article up. He has been not charged because they can't really bring anything up against them.
Yeah.
Whether or not he did his job well enough, we don't know, but they haven't got any proof against him. But the other guy, the other poor chump, he got nailed. And what he had done basically is he divided in half the amount of shear load that the building, the bolts on the building should be able to hold up. Very, very bad mistake. Very, very bad mistake. Somehow he got the idea that half the shear load was what was required, was the minimum required for the building. So they put it up with half the shear load, the bolts. So the bolts ripped and tore off. And if you ever seen bolt shear, man, they do it right away. They don't waste any time,
okay, all right, yeah, okay, that's interesting. I thought with a lot of these buildings that they over manufacture them rather than under manufacture them.
Well, they're supposed to.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. Okay, what happens is the engineer is supposed to look at the situation, right? Okay, you need X amount of strength, right? So many newtons. Each bolt should be able to hold back many newtons or whatever.
Yes.
Right. And then you're supposed to add a safety factor to that as well.
Yeah. Normally you factor out that it can take so much pressure and you add 20% or something based upon wind factors or other things.
Yes. If you engineer correctly, you're going to get a safety factor in there. So it will take you, in order to build a building that will stay up and be fine, it'll have to fall under this category, right? And then you then add a percentage of a safety factor in. Of course, all these things have to be looked at because your building in this area is going to have to sustain mild earthquakes. It's also going to have to sustain very, very hard winds. It's also going to have to stand up to tornadoes because we have tornadoes. All these factors factor in.
Yeah.
And even if none of that happened and you're just building a building and you have no weather issues or snow issues or anything else, and you build the building, it takes X amount of strength to hold this up. So then you put X plus 10 or X plus 2 or 10% more or whatever. And that's all engineered. Well, this engineer, he did the opposite. He reduced that. And that's why we had two collapses.
Yeah.
And they try to go after the other guy now, which is Smith, Jones, I think his name is. And I'm just going to come up with the names here. Can you read them there?
I can't see.
Okay, so you don't even have
on Facebook. On Facebook. No, I don't see. I haven't got anything message from you. No.
Well, it's in the article I sent you.
In the art. Oh. Yeah. No, I couldn't. Yeah. You just said
structural failure. So it goes on. Charges were laid against Alper Turan and Kyler Jones. Now Jones got out of it. So the engineers charged. The charges were not criminal in nature. But Turan was fined $15,000 after pleading guilty in provincial court to one count of endangering workers. The initial collapse was attributed to a failure of structural column to beam construction, right? Column to beam construction. That's it. You know, you got your beams going up and down, or your columns going up and down, and your beams going horizontally.
Yeah.
And if you do not connect them well enough, if you don't make that connection, I can't believe they made the mistake. Tell you the truth, that just is like so amateurish. I can't believe they made that kind of mistake.
Well, let me ask
the
you
initial
this
collapse
question.
was attributed to failure of structural column to beam connection section, for which Turan retained as a subcontractor by Merckwood Engineering responsible design. The court heard that Turan requested the shear force the beam was required to withstand. In reply, Merckwood Engineering instructed him to use half of the shear force for which the beam was rated. As a result, he inadvertently undercalculated the structural load for the connection, which caused the collapse. Now, how much fault is it him or the information he had? It says here the court heard that Turan requested the shear force the beam was required to withstand. In reply, Merckwood Engineering instructed him to use one half of the shear force. Now, how much responsibility does Turan have on this? I suppose they're expecting that he should have double checked.
He should have.
By even looking at it, he probably should have known that shear force that they gave him was incorrect, or at least suspected it was.
Yeah. And, you know, he was fined $15,000, but is he ever going to work in that industry again?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because, look, he made the mistake of doing what they told him to do without double checking. So I suppose if in your issues, by the way this is written, he's given instructions. This is the shear force we have to overcome. And they undercalculated it. They gave him, and then that made him undercalculate it.
Yeah,
I think probably what he should have known that shear force was not correct. If he looked at the beam and he looked at the column, he should have been able to decide. To me, this guy's an underexperienced engineer, maybe not qualified for this, because I'm pretty sure that most engineers that will look at that and get the instructions for the shear force, look at the shear force and say, wait a minute, this doesn't look right.
Often
it doesn't look like shear forces I've seen before.
Yeah. Often a lot of these things, what should be driving you is you might not actually have done the full calculation. But for example, if you're expecting a shear force of 1,000, let's say, and the figure's 500, that should kind of go, whoa, wait a minute, that's not right.
Well, that's what I'm pointing out here.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
That's probably why he was found. That's why he was probably fined $15,000. And if his engineering company is the one that gave him the shear force that he had to overcome, and it was wrong, they're the ones that really should be paying the $15,000 fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, they should have been given the $15,000 fine, except probably there's no corporate fines in this particular.
This is like if you look at a guy who's going to do a medical procedure on you, and he gets instructions from the lab or from the chief surgical unit, and he says, okay, well, you can do this and that, and the person dies, and then later on comes along and says, well, all that was wrong, and how come you, the surgeon, didn't recognize that?
Mm-hmm.
How come you, the surgeon, who are supposed to be experienced in this, did not recognize that was suspect information?
Yeah.
And I think that's the real reason why he's getting it, probably getting the fine. I mean, I'm just guessing, is the fact that he's a professional engineer and he should have known better.
The fact that the collapses occurred at the weekend is actually what saved workers' lives.
Oh my God. They had two collapses. And it's a good thing the first one happened on the weekend because it kept the workers off the site. And then the next one happened And there was a tragedy here that was missed, and this fella Karen has got to be very lucky that he hasn't got any blood on his hands.
Yeah.
He'd have
Oh,
to
yeah.
live with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And it was just by providence that these fellas, these engineers, and their engineering company don't have blood on their hands. And then you imagine living with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. All right. We Canadians have been traveling to the US a little bit more in June, but it's still way, way, way below pre-Trump levels.
Well, I haven't hardly ever gone. I got over there just a couple of times since the nonsense began with the that fellow who shall not be named, and I haven't. And me personally, I try not to buy anything that comes from the United States, food or anything else, that kind of thing. So I got my own little embargo going, my own little elbows up. I think, generally speaking, Canadians feel like they've been betrayed by our neighbor. I don't think we feel that the United States, the people of the United States, did it. The administration has done it. We see what kind of gangster-like process they use just to open up the Gordie Howe Bridge. Here we go again. I mean, like, this is a deal. Like, the Gordie Howe Bridge was a deal. It was made. Everybody was in agreement. Canada pays for the bridge. Canada recoups the tolls until it's paid, and then we share the money after that. Pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
They reneged on that deal,
Yeah.
right? Because the new administration come in and reneged on that deal.
And
so
it's
you can't make a deal with the United States right now.
Yeah.
You know.
And what the Gordie Howe Bridge, the Canada paying for it, is exactly what happened with the Peace Bridge, where America paid for it. All right.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is,
all the funds in the initial years of the tolls for the Peace Bridge all went to the US. Before they became shared.
Well, you have an administration that has no dignity or honor. You know, really, it's like the United. It's like the United States walks up to an old lady who wants to cross the road and says, yeah, you have to get to the other side, but you're going to have to give me your purse and everything in it before I take you over there. Yeah. I'm the only one that can get you over there. Just try to get over there without me, lady. I'll walk you across that road. I'll make sure you get on the other side, but I got to give you a shakedown here. And that's what they're doing to us and everyone else in the world that they can get away with, you know. No honor, no dignity, you know. We just got to get used to it. You know what I mean?
Okay, so so even though last month the visitors numbers remained beneath 2024 levels, they did rise 3.2% to 1.7 million in June compared to the year earlier. So this is the third consecutive month of year-over-year increase in travel to the US.
Well, of course, I've got relatives over there. I've got friends over there. If I want to go over there, I will go over there.
Most people do.
I will not book a holiday there if I can help it. If I've got money and I want to go someplace, unless I'm really transfixed on a certain location in the United States, I'll just find some other place to go until all this nonsense is all done. And then I'll start to travel in the United States again. So I think a lot of people are thinking the same way as I'm thinking, you know, and but that's just the way it is. So we haven't got much to fight back with here in Canada. Our elbows up, so we can only do what we can do.
Yeah.
But there's another factor here too. Canadian dollar's not working that well. Canadian economy's not doing that well. We don't have as much money to go to places like the United States in the first place. I think our trips to the United States would have been down anyway because our economy is not all that great, and the average person doesn't have that extra money to do that anyhow.
Well, and again, with the US dollar, when I first came here, the US dollar to Canadian was more or less on a par, right? Maybe we were 10 cents down on the US, but sometimes we were on par to the US. But now it being less than 60 cents 60 US a Canadian dollar, it's pretty bad for us.
Yes. So the best thing I can say is there's a number of factors here. Number one, people don't want to go to the United States right now, or don't want to buy U.S. stuff, and we're doing our best to try to fight back against the bully action from down below. But we don't have enough money. We don't have as much money as we did anyway. None at all.
Yeah.
And seriously. And today in city council meeting, there's going to be a review of the community improvement
plan.
And what they're going to say here today is that the lower, the moderate and lower income people in Niagara Falls don't have a hope in hell of getting a house. Now, you're going to have to be do better than moderate, better than midline. You're going to have to do better than that if you're going to get a house. That didn't used to be the way.
Yeah.
And so you see our standard of living is going down. And this, I think, is true throughout most of the democracies. The standard of living is screeched to a halt and slowing right down, and which tells you they have less money to travel with. And of course, the place most people travel to easily is the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to go down anyway,
Yeah.
All right. Then you add in the war. Let's say you add in a war. You add the Iranian war, and the price of gas and oil or gas has gone through the roof. You don't have as much. You can't even afford to drive down there now, right?
Yeah.
Because the gas prices are too high.
Well, most Canadians have shifted their getaway plans to traveling here in Canada or elsewhere in the world rather than going to the US.
Yeah. Yeah, most people do. I won't go down there and spend money on a vacation. I might go down there to visit friends, but not spend money on a vacation. But even my American friends tell me, don't come down here and spend your Canadian dollars down here.
Yeah.
Because of course they don't like the orange guy either. But
well, yeah, but you've been to a few things like hockey or lacrosse games. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, I've been to a couple. I went to a bar over there, but it was a Canadian that was singing in the bar. Right? It was Spencer McKenzie. So since all this nonsense began, I went to one bar over there, and that was Spencer McKenzie. Played at a bar. It was a Canadian band. So that was the excuse for that. Go over to watch a few lacrosse games in Buffalo. Almost all the players are Canadian. So,
yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I think that kind of leaves us for the day. But we do have a number of comments. Let's go through the comments. System is supposed to shortcut. It's supposed to shortcuts. If shortcuts are not taken, engineers are supposed to be the people. This is huge, being treated like it's nothing. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, I agree with that too, because there was a series of mistakes here. The engineering company gave the engineer the sheer stress that he had to overcome. It was wrong. That way, he undercalculated with the information he got the sheer strength of the bolts that were needed. Call them to beam. And number one, if you're an engineer, a light bulb will go off.
Yeah.
If you're a mechanic and somebody says put these spark plugs in the car, and wait a minute, this spark plug is not the proper one for this car. You should know that, right? Or at least suspect it. At least say, hey, wait a minute, can you check your figures? This doesn't look right to me.
Well, and again, for example, if you were putting in half-inch bolts in there normally in this kind of building that you were putting up, and suddenly you're putting quarter-inch bolts, surely that should have raised questions as well.
Well, usually it's amount of bolts. For instance, if you're doing structural iron like that, probably the least bolts you're going to be using is 5/8. You're more likely going to be using 3/4, and you're going to have an iron worker connect them, and they're going to be
Oh yeah, I
torqued to
was
a certain
using
degree.
the example that I was just doing was just to show, right? Because I didn't know what size they would make it. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I think it's just the amount that he probably, because the engineering should be like the holes that are already punched into the gussets and the beams and everything should be the right size holes
Well, they
for
should all
the
line
bolt you're
up.
going to be putting in.
Yeah,
So
they should
there's
all
been
line up.
so there's been a mess here, definitely. But I suppose the reason why Curran was charged was he should have recognized that that couldn't have been the proper shear strength.
Yeah, it couldn't have been. Yeah, and basically all of these things should line up, because when they drop the beam in place and line it to the floor, the bolt just drops in and they screw it up, don't they? They tighten it up.
Well, I'll tell you how that works is he's either put in undersized bolts or they didn't put enough in.
Yeah.
When you're connecting iron like that, that's it, right? So you connect the iron. Have a good day. You too, Rick. Anyway, we can. So when the iron workers are up there to connect it, he puts a spud in and he feeds he feeds it in, and then he puts the bolts in. And there's usually sometimes a little gusset there, sometimes not. He connects it, then they connect the whole thing, and then they bang it up. And they use a washer, an impact washer, and an oversized head on the bolt. So it'll be a heavy duty bolt and heavy duty nut with an impact washer, and then they rat it up, and it'll be good forever if it's the right size. Yeah. I mean, you stay there for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
If it's the right size.
If it's the right size. All right. We'd better be parting company anyway.
All right. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Do not forget Gaza. It is still going on. Lebanon. These things cannot be forgotten. And the Ukrainian war. Senator Lindsay pointed out how important that was again. And I don't know what's going to happen over there, but Netanyahu's kind of losing a little bit of his luster. And in the United States right now, it seems like no Democrat's going to be able to get elected if they take money from APEC in the upcoming midterms. We will see what a shakeup that's going to be. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu. And don't forget the misery of the people of Gaza. Bye-bye.
Right, bye.